to compete with the space because there's enough information already. So we thought the ideal thing would be to have a one-off effective conversation with the right people in order for us to understand what the trends are and see what we can do. Interestingly, we earmarked this webinar for teachers and parents. We are fully aware of the fact that some teachers double as parents and parents double as. So there's that intersection. But at the end of the day, the two category of people we have are the ones who play the backstopping role in the home and safeguarding the environment of the children and young people that are with us or that are in our care. And to help us in this conversation today is, I'll let him introduce himself. So, Lawyer Desmond or Teacher Desmond, please introduce yourself briefly, and then I would take it up.
Thank you, Awo. So my name is Desmond Israel. I'm a lawyer, I'm a cybersecurity practitioner, privacy practitioner. I do a bit of compliance too with anti-money laundering, counterterrorism. And then I also double as a researcher and advocate for technology policy. Child Online is just the thing that I cannot do without. So it's part of the things I do pro bono back to back because I want to see a safer internet for my children and the children of others. So yeah, I'm here today to make your conversation worthwhile, and I hope I do that.
All right. Thank you. I think you're trying to be very modest, so that's fine. We'll keep it at that. So it's been our focus at Child Online Africa to make sure or ensure that the children and young people in Africa are getting the right information and in the right formats, taking into consideration our cultural nuances. We know that with us in Africa, we have varied or diverse cultural systems, and as much as possible, anything we do must take into consideration those nuances. So clearly, at Child Online Africa, we do our bit in preparing children, young people, parents, teachers, NGOs, and I mean, almost all stakeholders. We pick conversation with them just to be sure that we have the right systems in place in safeguarding the well-being of children and young people in Africa. So by so doing, we put in place education, awareness creation, training. Sometimes we even recommend people like Desmond to give us security details or insights, which will help us either if it's about picking the right application or getting the right information or the right tool to make sure that we are making the most of technology and reducing the threats there are on this highway for the young person. So today we're looking at combating cyber stalking. So we'll look at what cyber stalking is. We have a couple of scenarios that I would play out for Desmond to help us unpack. So when I say unpack, we are looking at what are the preventive measures that can be put in place. And is that possible for us to play around it as parents, as teachers, as adults who are taking care of children? And as much as possible, since Desmond is here, he will help us to weave around those ones and be sure that we're making the most of the time, because clearly we cannot do without the technological tools now, and we cannot do without the internet. So clearly, the best thing we have to do is to prepare ourselves or arm ourselves for it. If your child doesn't have a device at home, that is not to say that your child is not online. Your child might be connecting in school or at the cafe, or even just by the fact that they're interacting with their friends at school. Chances are that the downside or the high side might rub on them in one way or the other. So it'll be important for us to start this conversation here, continue at home, and also make sure we are asking the right questions our service providers. Because at the end of the day, we pay money, and we cannot pay money in order to have our children corrupted, but we will want to pay money and have our children guided to the right tools and right information for them to be the kind of young people we want them to be. So without much to say now, we have a poll segment. So the polls are put together just to bring our minds to whatever we're going to discuss here. So we're going to launch it. Please do your best to participate and give us your feedback. Based on that, we will determine if there's any topic in the poll that we would have to be working with. So Jake, kindly launch the pre-webinar poll for me. Thank you.
Poll is not editable.
Sorry?
It's as though it's ended.
Really?
Yeah. You see the questions are the same, but I can't. Okay, let me try this and see. Yeah.
At my end, I'm unable to because of let me see if I can relaunch pool. Jake, is there any results yet so that I could relaunch from here?
No, there's no results.
Okay.
Yeah, so from my side, I think because you make me an admin, I can see. From my side, I see poll ended, but the other two polls are still active. So maybe you need to relook at that, and then if you can relaunch it.
I have relaunched it. So I'm not putting you on the spot, but Dr. Marvel, please, can you see the poll for me? Is it accessible? Hey, I can see Auntie Kiki as well. Please, can you see the poll?
Yeah, I can see it, but
I can see it.
I can see.
I had to close it to answer your question. I don't even know how to get back to it now.
oh shoot.
Oh, sorry. Sorry for messing you up.
But I could see it and I was answering it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, there's one, but because you are a co-host, you will be unable to.
Yeah. I think they are quite important questions if you look at how industry plays out in terms of policy making and how solution providers or service providers are supposed to position themselves. So I'm looking at the questions, and they are quite important questions that would help address the risk issues that comes out with cyber stalking and whether we even understand it at all.
Yeah, so which is why it's important for you to unpack it for us and then we'll try to see the way forward.
Absolutely.
First one, please be checking the results so that in the course of the week we'll be fusing them in just to be able to save some time.
Yeah. So if you manage to complete the poll, you can just use the thumbs up or raise the hand reaction on your screen. Just
so we know.
Yeah, we know. Because if the majority are able to do it, we can get going.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy.
Madam Joy.
Oh, another hand thumb is up. Oh, that's 3.
No.
Okay. Okay. So like I said, these are very, very important questions. So definitely we should be looking at them. Andy is also done.
So in terms of the platforms, we see the gaming and then social media, mostly.
Yeah.
So far, that's the same. Okay. So you see number 10?
Let me go to turn.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not too surprised about that. I'm not too surprised about that.
All right.
It's more like an emphatic revelation. If they should go into your policy statistics, then a policymaker should be listening to you why they need to put in specific measures and not general policies, you know. Joy's hand is up.
Okay. Please unmute and speak if you have your hand up. Madam Joy.
Yeah, hello. It's Mr. Moy, right?
That's Mr.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Sorry, my apologies.
Oh, no, that's okay. I don't know. Really, I think it was an error. I didn't intend asking any question for now.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. I think I
will end the poll here and then we'll see. Maybe when the number improves, we might launch it again. But once we're going to discuss the areas, that's fair.
Yeah.
So do I have your permission to do that?
Yes, you do. I mean, you have majority partaking in the poll. It's 9 out of 13. So I think it's is worth it, statistically.
Okay. Right. So I'll just share the results. I don't seem to see the result myself, but can you see the results?
I do. I can see.
Okay.
I can see.
So Jake, please be handy. The next poll, you have to share it and do everything so I can also participate, because now I'm deprived of the results. So I will just be going straight to my task. All right.
In order for you to participate, I would have to remove the co-host from you.
Yes, I was
Okay.
going to say that uneasy is the head, that was the crowd.
All right, that's fine. So I'll have to manage. So I'll stop sharing, and then please, Desmond,
Yes.
please walk us through briefly what is cyber stalking.
Oh, good. So that's a given. That's almost like a question that will be asked. So I don't know if everybody else should answer some.
No, just tell us.
All right. Okay. So let's look at it this way. Any form of harassment and intimidation that occurs on digital platforms or online platforms, you can actually categorize it as cyber stalking, because stalking itself has to do with harassment. It has to do with intimidation, but there's a catch.
Okay.
There's a catch. There is persistency, and that catch is because of maybe the legal issues. Because if you claim somebody is harassing you, you would have to prove the persistency of the harassment. But because you are dealing with the digital space, the persistency has two wings. I mean, sort of. So you have persistency in terms of time and duration, and then you have persistency in terms of the platform. So maybe I'm getting harassed once on SMS, but the same subject, the same victim, suspect, the same person is harassing me also on Facebook, and is proceeding to also harass me on maybe Instagram. Or that person is even on the same online gaming platform with me and is harassing me there too. So you could see that there are multiple platforms where this harassment is happening. So that's where the persistency drives comes from. This is definitely harassment. Now, harassment might not be as maybe as deep as we would look at intimidation, but both of them are considered stalking and cyber stalking for that matter, if it persistently happens on a digital platform, right? And so the question that I usually get is, so how much is persistency? What amounts to persistency?
Yeah.
I think the general notion is that once it happens more than once, right, then it means that we are actually getting into the space where cyber stalking is an issue. But usually people would want to look at how the incident happens and then be able to put their feet down to say that, okay, I think I'm being stalked here, because you also be acting paranoid if a one-off activity is being considered as stalking or cyber stalking for that matter. It doesn't mean that one-off activity could not amount to a cyber crime. For instance, and let me just jump the gun and give an example. A one-time sharing of a minor's private pictures, explicit pictures, it's not necessarily cyber stalking in the sense that we are discussing it. But that sharing itself is a cyber crime against the person of the minor, for which you can have law enforcement to do their job. So just so we are well informed, the fact that there's been maybe a sextortion or the sharing of an intimate pictures of a minor or a child, which does not amount to cyber stalking in a sense, does not mean that it is not a cyber crime in itself.
Okay.
So
in effect, sharing is a form of cybercrime, which could be interpreted to mean stalking if the child
if it's
decides to take an
persistently done.
action.
Yes, if it's persistently done. So that same activity, once it continues, can also amount, to stalking. And it comes with, series of behaviors that you want to look at. It is targeted, right? It is persistent. I gave persistent as one. It is persistent, it is targeted, and it's some sort of monitoring also happening in there. So it's like they know your every move. It's like, okay, now I have your phone number. Now I know your Instagram account. Now I know you're on Facebook. Now I know your gaming handler account. You keep getting all these sort of clap back as to the person, knowing the every move of the child, or even if it's an adult, the every move of the adult within that digital space. And so once these things are happening, it becomes very creepy. It's not very pleasant. It puts the victim in what we call a state of apprehension and fear, and that is why it is not countenanced. That is why it's not a behavior society would want to countenance. And therefore, to make it easy for us to deal with it, we decided to, sort of put together a series of legislations and laws to make sure that if such an activity happens, it is not something that society wants to encourage. And therefore, we'll take you on and deal with you as per, the jurisdiction that those provisions are provided for in there. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's the explanation I can give to cyber stalking. I don't think the definition in itself would have helped too much because we are trying to make it a very tangible conversation.
That's right. So that said, I'm going to just go to my first scenario for you.
Okay.
We have a number of scenarios that we'll be going through tonight, as far as this discussion is concerned. So this is it. You help us come up with preventive strategies.
Right. I like this.
If it's going to be more like something that we could even be doing at the back end, you could prompt, and then you have a bit of a demo for us, since that's what you love to do best, on how to activate the privacy features on a particular device. And please feel free to post your questions in the chat or put up your hand if you have a burning issue before we move to the next one. So this is for you. Imagine a 60-year-old who plays online games and makes friends as well. And knowing to him or her, a friend starts sending them messages with inappropriate content. And when we say inappropriate content, we're looking at either violent content or pornographic content or anything which is unacceptable, yes. And as for the child's personal information, so by personal information, we're talking about maybe mother's name, father's name, phone number, house number, what have you. What should a child do, or what should we as parents tell the child or help the child do to prevent these things from going out of hand?
Right, good. So that's I like this. I like the style of this presentation. So first of all, the elements are clear from the explanation that I gave earlier, but I'll just go over some few elements. I actually have some pointers with me here. I'll go over some few elements because I'm not sure if I'll get the opportunity to do that again whilst I address the preventive measures here. So for us to be able to identify if this actually is cyber stalking, one of the things we need to also have in mind is what we call the common behaviors, right?
Okay.
So there are about 7 common behaviors. There could be more, but there are like generally 7 common behaviors that you should identify. So I'm going to bring the audience along with me. Now, the first thing is sending of threats, okay? And harassing messages. So that's one behavior that you can look at is when there is the sending of threats and harassing messages. Another behavior you can look at is when, the other side has begun to monitor the online activity of the victim. Right? So that's another one that you can also have. And then you have
of the potential victim.
Of the potential victims. Yes, of the potential victim.
Okay.
I'd go with that. And then you have the impersonation behavior as well, or creating of, fake profiles. So you have scenarios in cyber stalking where profiles of our potential victims are created, or they are impersonated in some way. And then another behavior, which will be the fourth one that you also can look at, is when there is a spreading of false information against the potential victim. And then we have when unauthorized access is gained, to their system or their digital asset, whether it's an account or a device or whatever it is, that persistency, that activity or that behavior that comes with some sort of persistency can also amount to cyber stalking. And then if technology is used in doing some sort of tracking on the potential victim, and finally, if there is a real life stalking of the potential victim. So if you notice, all the lists that I've given, about the 7 items that I've given, item number 1 fits this scenario because, well, it's not a threat, but it has to do with harassing messages. I mean, from the scenario that we have, line 3 says that the friend starts sending them messages with inappropriate content or asks for personal information. The dangers of cyber stalking are quite enormous. It includes psychological and emotional distress. So this is not something we would want to take, lightly. Now that we have the child coming to bring this up, first thing you need to know is the other side, the perpetrator, or we'll call the person the perpetrator. The perpetrator, we need to know the perpetrator. If it's a situation that because they are friends, the child can identify that perpetrator is probably a minor. This is where you begin what we call the open communication. Okay, so you have not gone into the use of technology yet. One of the way to address the issue is to go in the open communication. So it means that parents or guardians on both ends must have to come together to assist in dealing with the issue. I'll tell you why. The first thing is that the laws, first of all, do not prosecute children for crime. It is presumed in law. I mean, that presumption could be wrong, but in law, we accept that children could not form their mind to commit a crime. They could not also form consent, and that's why you don't contract with a child. That is why when you have a sexual encounter with a child, we categorize it as rape. What's the term? Sexual
harassment.
And so
sexual exploitation and
sexual
abuse.
exploitation, child sexual exploitation. Yes. So it's because of that philosophy, that legal philosophy, that the child cannot, it's a minor, cannot form consent, cannot form the mind to commit a crime. And that is why, if you know the perpetrator to also be a minor, because minors do, and in most cases they are even they are more of potential perpetrators than even adults when it comes to cyber stalking and cyber bullying. So you need to look at the other side and identify if the open communication will work. So one of the preventive measures to cut off these potential issues is to go into the open communication, where guardians can have these communications, parents can have this communication. Another factor, and I realize that from your post, that we are lacking is education and awareness. Education and awareness. That is very, very important, especially when the question for me to address here is a preventive one. The child needs to know some of these indicators so that if you want them to even use technology will kick in when they are able to pick up some of these behaviors that we have identified, and that would help us to deal with the issue, more stringently. Then we can set boundaries. We set boundaries in many ways. Screen time limits, the age category of the child when it comes to platforms that they are accessing. So maybe this child is playing God of War, and God of War has been tagged for 13-year-olds, right? So the frame of mind for 13-year-olds are quite stronger than the 6-year-old, but it doesn't mean the 6-year-old cannot play the God of War so well that he could even beat a 13-year-old in that game. So that's the leveler that technology brings, that the 6-year-old will find themselves in an environment where they don't know that they're actually playing with 13-year-olds and above. And so the natural tendency to be stalked, to be harassed, to be threatened is very, very high, such that the child could easily cave into that psychological distress that I was talking about, or that emotional distress that I was talking about. So the setting of boundaries is important. Screen time, access to platforms, age-appropriate access to the platform is also important, because our facts do not disclose whether our child is actually using the appropriate platform or not. So we can also look at a scenario where parent guardian at maybe lacks the rules a bit, because we have a child in the house, he needs to occupy himself so that daddy can have some sleep, mommy can have some sleep. These are the realities of our lives, and so when I'm dealing with these issues, I really want to look at the practicality of it, because there's a textbook and there's what we see when it comes to real life scenarios. So you need to set the boundaries appropriately. What kind of platform are you buying? What kind of subscription are you paying for this gaming? Is it a network game? If it's a network game, what is the age access to that game? Where do they play it? Maybe you have an arcade in the house and maybe it is in their room, so you hardly even visit them, right? So he sits in the arcade, he wears his headphones like I'm wearing mine, he puts on his microphone and he starts using curse words, even as 6-year-old. You don't know. Maybe it's out of that somebody also started sending him pictures to annoy him, pictures to harass him, so you need to preventive measures as such that you are putting in the guardrails. And one of the guardrails is to set boundaries. Of course, you can tune into privacy issues. And that will be the last one I'll touch on for this on preventive. I had some other controls. Maybe I might use them for other scenarios or if other questions come out. But on the privacy side of things, especially to this very scenario, gaming platforms do have privacy settings. Like, for instance, what you want to display. One of the good things that young gamers learn is to use pseudonyms. So they don't actually disclose their actual names on the platforms. They also use avatars. So they don't use their actual pictures on the platform. These are intentionally good measures. Whilst it creates anonymity for the potential perpetrator, it's also a guardrail for the potential victim. So the potential victim can avoid being stalked, being seen by enabling the appropriate features. Some online gamers turn on everything about them. So their geolocation, their name, because they are using their actual names. Some of them even add date of birth into some of the names. So you can have something like young XG 1999. So it immediately clicks for somebody like me. If I'm doing my checks, it clicks to me that, this guy has something to do with 1999. He's either born on the day or somebody around him is born on the day. So they give indicators of these things, which creates room, for the potential perpetrators to jump on that. There's a case in the United States where the FBI was able to track a gamer who had issued a game scare, and the FBI had gone in, a bomb scare, and the FBI had gone in and there was no bomb, and one of the ways by which they track him was his social media activities, his geolocation that was exposed, and things like that. So it's important for us to look at the privacy settings as well.
Right. Looking at the passion you are attaching to the scenarios, please, I'm going to restrict you. Kindly keep your preventive measures to 3 key ones, after which, if we need more, we'll ask for. Other than that, we'll not be able to exhaust.
The jury will decide whether they will stay longer or leave. Yes, I got that. Okay.
So the next thing was a parent is constantly sharing photos of his 4-year-old. I always say that most parents use children as accessories. And when you try to tell them that, it is wrong for you to be posting their photos like that, they feel a typical Ghanaian parent say, why am I paying school fees? Why am I clothing him or her? You can't tell me that he or she has a right and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. So inadvertently sharing too much personal information, a cyber stalker could use this information for malicious purposes. Yes, right. Do you want me to elaborate how the information could be used, or I should jump straight to the preventive measures? Sorry, can anybody hear me? Have I lost connection?
No, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. So it's our who's lost connection. So let me use the jury then. Do you want me to explain how the information could be maliciously used? Or you just want me to go straight to deal with the preventive measures? Maybe a few votes, and then we'll jump from there.
Please do both.
Both. Okay, right. Okay. All right, that's fair. So, okay, so on the use of the information for malicious purposes, it's similar to what they call triangulation. Triangulation essentially is when you try to put pieces of information together and then make sense out of it, right? So an example would be, for instance, today, the parents shared the picture of the child and of the child celebrating the birthday. So definitely, the smart, potential perpetrator knows that, okay, the birthday was celebrated on the 30th of October. So that's one pointer. That's an important personal data of the child. Most likely, the parent may have used the name of the child as well out of the excitement. So that's another pointer. So we have name of child and we have the date of birth of the child. Attacker does not use this for anything yet. He stands by until maybe a day or two later, parent comes again out of excitement, shares the new school of the child. So the child has begun a new school and, school crest is on the uniform, takes a picture of the child, out of that excitement, shares that as well. So maybe the first one was shared on Twitter, the next one was shared on Facebook, things like that. So attacker picks up this information. So now we have name of child, we have date of birth, we have the school that the child attends. We potentially would have downloaded pictures of the child. So these 3 pointers. If you're also fan of doing a lot of geolocation in and out of the house, so for instance, the child is picked up, or when you've picked the child up, it's not even about the child. When you've picked the child up and you're on your way home, you used to take pictures of maybe your route to the house, maybe your favorite kebab joint, you take a picture, maybe grandma's house, you take a picture, you tag yourself. What you've done is that you've created enough information by just this scenario, which you harmlessly did. No fault to anybody. You harmlessly did that, or the parent harmlessly did that. But you're giving enough pointers for somebody to easily say, oh, I know this child, this is where he goes, this is what he does, this is where they live, this is where the grandma goes. If it's a syndicate, and like the way we know it, of people who are adopting kids, stalking and adopting kids, you've given enough information for them to circumvent your trip between maybe school and the house. Another thing too that could happen is they could create an account of the child. So your child is their young baby, or maybe minor of maybe 10 years or lower, but they have a social media account which you didn't create, right? And then all sorts of things can be used to perpetrate in that account. So those are just 2 examples, so that I don't use all the time just discussing it. But there are a lot of potential issues that could come out of it. It could be as grave as, like I said, getting the child abducted or kidnapped, and that's it. But what do we do? Because we also want to be part of the fun. We want to share the fun. We want to go in and enjoy social media. I, for once, I do enjoy social media. One of the key things that I always say is when the child is really, really young, and really, really young here, I'm talking about somebody who's 13 years and below, or if you want to be a bit lax to the issues, maybe 10 years and below, pictures usually would go like, you can intentionally take pictures without their faces showing, right? We didn't know that some time ago, so maybe we were doing any and everything. But now that we know, there are smart ways of taking very good pictures without necessarily, expressing or showing the face. Because what you want to do is avoid the identity of the child, whether through a digital means or through the conventional physical means. You just don't want the child to be easily identified. Secondly is ourselves as parents, the privacy settings within our space. So for instance, I'd share most of my pictures of family on my WhatsApp. You know why? Because my story is actually tailored to a certain group of people, so not a lot of people are seeing my stories because I've intentionally not made you see my stories. It is part of my own measures and trying to make sure, because there are people who know me as a family person. They know my wife, they know my kids already. And so, yes, if they know them and you are comfortable with them, that's fine, because then all you are trying to do is reduce the risk surface. You just want to make sure that you are able to contain the risk. So I would love to share, because sometimes the news is too good to keep it off the radar. So I would go on my WhatsApp and share. If I'm going to share a picture on my Facebook, for instance, especially in the last 2 or 3 years when I took this business of child safety very seriously, it would either be the one that is grown up, who is about 18, or it will be, if it's of the young one, it might probably be imparted and his back is showing, so it hasn't got facial expression, or it's a silhouette. So yes, you can see the person, but you really can't tell who is there. And then in my privacy settings as well, I determine, still on my Facebook, I determine which post goes, right? So post that goes to friends, post that goes to the public. And today I'd like to tell you that the public is run by an algorithm that easily marks the content to anybody at all who is interested in that content, right? So especially those of us who add hashtags to it. So you add hashtag birthday. Hashtag birthday goes into the AI brain. The AI brain knows about the hashtag birthday community, which will be probably about 10,000 or 10 million or 10 billion hashtag community. So it means a lot of conversation going on using the hashtag birthday, right? Now, it will now map it to your own network, and then it will do the network of networks. So I know Awo, and then Awo knows Andy, and then Andy knows Joy, and Joy knows Etonam. That's how that picture that I'm going to post and target public will end up with Etonam, even though we've never met before. Just because she is in my inner circle by virtue of Awo being my friend on Facebook. So that's the reason why the privacy setting is one of the key things that you would use for this particular scenario that we are talking about. Privacy settings will come in very, very handy for that. And then I think I also touched on one already, which will be avoid sharing the PII. Asida's birthday can be celebrated. Her picture can be snapped with, partially her face, or she's posed differently and her face is not showing. She can even hold a teddy bear which covers her face a little, and then she takes a picture. We can avoid her taking the pictures in her school uniform, and that's all taking personal data away. We can take a full name out. Maybe we just mentioned Asida, so it's not, or even her pet name in the house, can be used. So we avoid mentioning the name. Celebrating a birthday without necessarily mentioning today is a birthday, it's cool, because it could have been a belated birthday anyway. Anything to make it easier for you to reduce the attack surface, the risk surface. And the risk surface, the attack surface, is all the pointers that make it easier for the cyber stalking behavior to manifest would be something that we will need to look at. Jake, do you have another scenario I can touch on, or maybe I should shift to questions because I don't see Awo on the call still?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay.
Any questions too.
Okay, all right, that's fine. So yes, so the privacy settings are critical. The open conversation is also important. Education and awareness, like you're having now. I saw from the poll 20. Okay, so have you discussed online safety, cyber stalking with your child or student? Just a minute, let me get this to my screen. I can't see well. All right, there you go. Right, good. So first question was, have you discussed online safety and cyber stalking with your child or student? We have 22% saying that yes, they do so regularly. 67% says that they don't, and then 11% says they do that frequently. So that's a huge gap in the awareness and education part, because awareness and education is not a formal approach. In fact, I had a presentation about a week ago, and I was saying that it's about time we move this whole concept of education, awareness, training into what I would term empowerment, right? So user empowerment. So in this case, it could be the child empowerment, child empowerment would be a very good phrase for this very presentation, because in the other presentation, I was talking about corporate users, so I was talking about user empowerment. So if you don't create a child empowerment environment through the education and the awareness, you create a very huge vacuum to solving your problem. I'll tell you what, from security and my practice, we have a statement which says that you cannot protect what you don't see. So one of the key things we are always interested in is visibility. If I have any auditor on this call, you would agree with me, whether it's an IT audit or a finance auditor, you would agree with me that you're always worried when you are looking at the books, the processes, the systems, and there are things that are supposed to follow a certain terrain. You can't find them, right? Visibility is always a problem. So if you don't create room for the child to appreciate, if you don't empower the child to appreciate the issues, then you have that vacuum. What you can't see, what you don't know, you can't protect. It's as simple as that. So I want you to leave this session with that in mind, that what you don't know, what you don't see, you can't protect it. So visibility, and just put visibility into context, okay? So any way by which we can identify what is happening around us is important. And one way to do that is to give education to the word, which I now say we should call child empowerment. Let's empower the child to understand that, okay, this is Facebook. So a very good example, in my home, when we started off, everybody has a tab, everybody could go online. But when I begin to identify a lot of the dangers, the prevalence of the dangers, we start to put some measures in place. So access was given by age 11. So the first child got access age 11, monitoring. Now she's 18 years. We think we are fine. Second child at age 11 also got it. And then she started to misbehave. One app that I was insistent would not be used until she's 18 and decides to go there, because for me, one is a waste of time, especially the kind of content that the algorithm pushes to our side of the world, including the United States. It's TikTok. I have nothing against TikTok. People have made money off TikTok. In fact, there are people who are living their life off TikTok. That is fine. Once you can control the space, it's okay. But in my case, where I cannot police everything, even with the knowledge and the technology that I have in my house, it's one place you are not going to go unless you can form the mind to decipher what is good and bad, what you need to consume, what will be helpful to you, what will keep your psychological state of mind intact. And so we had a situation where our second child was very, very stubborn about the issue. 1 minute she's on, the next minute you take it off. Another minute she's installed it back. So we bought tools like Kaspersky Safe Kids, which I could monitor anywhere I was in the world. And when it's installed, when the phone leaves the house, we could tell. It became too much. So what we did was the withdrawal. So for about 3 years, she had no access to, 2 years, she had no access to device. She just turned 13, and we decided to give her a device especially for phone calls, and then for her to be able to use ChatGPT, because most of the time she's doing her research and her assignments and stuff like that. So that's my own example, explaining to you how the education thing can be a problem if it's not done well, and how you can also put your feet down, to deal with something. Now she knows that if she messes it up, she's not getting it probably to 18, and that's a very good training. In fact, under the DQ training standards, withdrawal is one of the strategies the parents can use to bring the child into conformity. It's a negotiation thing. If I give you access and you mess it up, I'll take it back until you learn how to use that access and use it appropriately. So let's beef up the education part. It wasn't too exciting, the statistics we have. The next question was, how often do you monitor your child's online activities, social media interactions, etc., etc.? Daily is 11%, weekly is 33%. Nobody does so monthly, which makes me a little happy. But rarely is also 33%, and never is 22%. So between rarely and never, we are dealing with 55% of us will rarely monitor the social media activities of a child. let's do a bit of switch here. I can marry the situation with a few things here. Let me just take you on a small drive here. Screen 2. Okay. So I just need someone to confirm that they can see my screen. It's supposed to be a browser.
Yes, we can see.
Oh, thank you. All right, so let's do something real quick. So what you're seeing on my screen now is actually my phone, okay? So this is my phone. So on this phone, I just want to demonstrate something to you. So on this phone, I've actually organized a lot of things on my phone. So I just go to tools, and under tools, you could see a number of things here. So I have app lock. App lock locks all my applications. Just to show you briefly. Because we were talking about the child control already, let me just deal with it. So yeah, it's comes with premium services, but don't worry. We are not doing too much to ask for everything, but if you need everything, you can actually get it. I just close the ad and then I go on to app lock. So on that, I log in with my thumbprint. And why did I do that? Because when I did the patterns, some smart ones managed to know what the patterns are. So yeah, now I'm not using patterns again. I'm using my thumbprint. You need to cut my thumb up to be able to go in and change settings, right? So all you're seeing here are all the applications that are logged, right? It includes payment apps that I use, AI, my learning platform, all the apps. So the blue ones you're seeing are all logged. So for now, you could see all my financial apps and my authenticators are logged. Why did I do that? So this.
Sorry, I can see Foxton. That's the only thing I can see.
Oh.
Is that the page you're on? Thank you for downloading browser history viewer, Foxton.
Oh, no. Okay, let's fix this, guys.
I'm the only one seeing it.
No, I think I moved it, so I'm sure that's why you've lost.
Yeah, I'm also seeing Foxton.
Yeah, you're seeing Foxton. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you for bringing it up. Please tell me if you can now see a screen that has purple background.
Yes, please, we can see that.
Yes, we can see.
This is perfect. Okay, so I'll just do a quick rollback again. Don't worry. So what you are seeing on your screen is actually an emulation of my phone. Okay. So in order to demonstrate some of the things to you, I'm demonstrating from my phone and you are viewing it from there. So yeah, that's why you are seeing that screen. So the scrolling and all is activity that I'm just doing on my phone. So it's just to explain to you that you can lock these applications if it's a shared device, for instance, or it's not a shared device, but you want to have access. You want to control the access. And I gave you the example why, with the scenario about my second born, and that's a very practical scenario. So I came here to just show you one thing. So let's assume that I don't want them to go on Facebook. So I tap it this way. So now Facebook is locked by the standards that I have on this phone. So now I come back here and my applications are grouped already. If you look at it, it's just like on the computer. So I come here to social media and then I tap Facebook. Now you realize that it's asking to be unlocked. So it means that whether the access is directly on the child's device, because every child's device, like I said, by age 13, at least following those e-safety commissioner age restriction standards, by age 13, you are beginning to give the child a bit of leeway. 18 years, you can't do much because they are considered adults. So all I'm saying here is we are dealing with the minors. Every minor's device is a shared device between the parents and the child. In fact, that is why even if you don't have credentials to the device, you are able to seize it and say you are grounded. Okay, so the child rights does not include harming themselves. No, child rights does not include harming themselves. Everything they need to have access to, they must have access to, those that are privileges that you would want to extend to them, you do extend it to them. But the things they need to be able to move about, to be able to, keep going as children, including what they've come to terms as a child's privacy is actually a shared effort. That's why if there is a harm done to the child, you are the ad litem, you are the guardian ad litem, you are the one who becomes responsible. Because I gave you the scenario. Legally, we say children cannot form the mind to commit a crime, and they cannot form a mind, to enter into contract, and they cannot give consent. So what happens to the child that you just gave the digital device to? It's not enough for the child to just have the digital device, and then the scenario is that, okay, they have the rights to have it. So I'll just end it there. So now with this scenario, you could see that the application is locked, and unless I tap it and it's open. So this is actually my Facebook. And that's just the scenario I wanted to give to you. And that's because I ran the app lock to lock the applications where we are dealing with trying to control access to these applications. The last demonstration on phone, and then we'll switch back to the questions, and maybe if Awo wants to jump in, she could jump in, would be to go back to tools, and then you do need antivirus on your device, okay? So please, any antivirus that is free is good. On my mobile device, Kaspersky has proven to be a very good tool. It runs a very good scan. When certain sites are visited, it imprints, it takes the digital prints for me. If there's a virus dropped on it, I see the notification, I can clear it up and all that. So you need that as well. Let's go back to our tool set, and then the last tool is the screen time. So this is screen time. The reason why you need screen time is very simple. Screen time helps you control how the social media platforms or apps are used on the devices. It works on tablets as well, so not just on phones. And so if you could see here, I've been on Telegram for an hour and 51 minutes. I've been on DMSS for 38. DMSS is actually a camera that watches a property back home. And then, AppLock itself, I just turned it on 4 minutes ago, screen time, and then Kaspersky 3 minutes ago. You can always add a limit where you bring the applications, you set the limit. So Facebook has 1 minute, and then you can set the passcode that comes with it. So this is practically to show you that for you to control access to the device, honestly, it's not rocket science. Okay, and for privacy settings usually comes with the application in question. So depending on what application is running, depending on what access we are on, then we apply those privacy settings. But generally on the device, you can put some of these features in there. Maybe later we can talk about browser history and things like that. So this is just to address the first two issues on the poll. I always back, so let's throw it back to. Or you want me to continue? You are muted.
Okay. Yeah. I said you won't ask. You don't hand over to me like that. Where are we? Have you run the midterm poll already?
No. So I was going through the pre-webinar questions with them. We're just on question 3, and then I decided to run and go and do a demo to explain it, because I didn't want to just finish that and now go to demo. So I'm trying to fuse, the conversation as to go.
So would you want to?
I can go on. I can go on with the questions. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So question 3 said that how familiar are you with the potential dangers of cyber stalking? Right. So we have 44% saying that they are somewhat familiar, and then we have 33% saying that they are very familiar, and then not familiar at all is about 22%. Well, this is quite encouraging. So because familiarity is important. Remember when I spoke about visibility, understanding the issue. So if you're familiar, at least it's a step into understanding the issue, and that's very, very encouraging. I'll entreat my 22% to take time to look at some of these things. You can just Google cyber stalking and then read it a bit, or go to YouTube and type cyber stalking basics. There are a lot of videos. Some are as short as 2 minutes, some are short as 1 minute, and some are as long as an hour, discussing cyber stalking from different angles. And if you want to be more specific, you can even add child safety to it, and it should give you an indication. Then we have question 4, which said that, do you monitor your child or students' online activities, friends lists, or social media? Occasionally, 56% of us do that. 22% do it regularly. And then 22% don't monitor at all. I want 22% to move to 0. And then that category, please move yourself into occasionally. And I want those who do it occasionally to now move into the regular category. I mean, there's a very good need for you to do a regular monitoring of the social media activities of your child. Now, I'll give you another example. By monitoring a child's device, we got to find out that she was going through stalking, harassment, a very serious harassment, including a threat on her life. At the time, the child was just about maybe 15 or 15 going to 16. And it was a really big issue. We had to involve some private investigators just to make sure we deal with this issue. We nip it in the bud. We had to get her off a social media WhatsApp group that they have joined. I mean, for a long while now, she's been empowered. Things are fine. We've not had any issue, but these are the practical things that I'm talking about. Don't take it too lightly. I would say you are always the best person to have this conversation. Yes, because I face it professionally, and I have also faced it as a private person with my own family. And I'm not naive about the subject. This is my daily bread. You know, this is what I do. I have the tools, I have the access, I have the knowledge, I have the legal background, but yet I'm still faced with some of the challenges. So you can imagine where you leave the situation just open like that. I also remember in that scenario where my wife did the random checks on devices, and this was even a shared device, only for her to realize that a new social media platform, I've forgotten the name, something 0, has been installed. I had never even seen it before. And you have I think grade 6 students or grade 6 students having very deep-rooted conversations, and it's not very pleasant. So please shift into monitoring the activities until they are adults, and you can be sure that, okay, at this time you legally can form consent, you can legally commit a crime, and I wouldn't be responsible. That's just a lighter way of saying it, but all I mean is that we should shepherd them until they are of age to take care of themselves on the digital platform. Question 5 was asked on, do you have...
So let's go back to our scenario, please.
Oh, right, good. Yes, yeah. I was actually looking for the scenarios, so...
I'm sorry I didn't share with you before I left.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. Let's go to scenarios.
So that's what we have.
So a 10-year-old experiences cyberbullying on social media platforms where peers create fake profiles to harass them with hateful comments and threats. First thing here is the monitoring. Please, that your 10-year-old might look all plumpy, tall, good figure like a basketball player, 10 looking 16, but please, the monitoring is important. This fits into the scenario that I gave earlier on about some conversations that are happening. I mean, you can liken it to these sort of fake profiles and harassment, because you would do the investigation only for you to find out that even the platforms have been infiltrated, right? So these minors create these WhatsApp platforms, and then malicious-minded people who are not minors manage to get their numbers added to these platforms. They become like groomers, sort of. And your child would be on the platform thinking that, oh, she's just with her colleagues, she's just with her mates. So the monitoring first, and then also, since it's a WhatsApp platform that we are talking about, one of the things I like about WhatsApp recently is the deny all. So you can actually select contact numbers that can add you to groups. I think you should set those features. If your child is already on WhatsApp and you're comfortable with that and you have an eye on it, you can actually set those features up on the privacy settings to make sure that it is only those people that you have added to their contact list that can actually add them to WhatsApp group. And also, where you've been able to identify numbers of perpetrators, you can actually add them to the block list of the WhatsApp group. You can tune to Truecaller, okay? And I'm giving you Truecaller not because it's a brand, but because it's a tool that I've also used and it works. The block feature there's a block feature I love so much on Truecaller, which says that if the contact is not on your phone, no calls. So people call me, and if the contact is not saved, the call doesn't come through. And sometimes I do call numbers back because I feel like, okay, this number might be a business, and when it's not, I just come back and block it. So it doesn't block originally, but it just stops the person from calling you. But when you identify that somebody you know or some number you would want to keep, once you add the number to your contacts, the call automatically comes through. So if it's a child that you are training and you are empowering, remember we've adopted a new term. Instead of training and awareness, we are saying child empowerment. So if it's a child that you are empowering and you're giving them the device already, maybe like a phone, then please be sure which numbers they are saving on it. Maybe grandma, maybe uncle, maybe the senior brother, the junior brother, maybe yourself, daddy or mommy, be sure which numbers are saved, and then put on some of these features to begin to start on. So privacy settings, deny or monitoring, these are the two key things you need. And then the empowerment, which we have categorized here as education and awareness. Those are the things that you need to get to deal, with this, create a preventive measure for this scenario. Yeah. I think I saw a question in the chat. Let me see. Or was there a contribution? I'm not very sure, but let me check. There are events where children find themselves misinformed online. Sometimes the sort of information they digest is really not healthy. How often or what routines should parents adopt to monitor their children? I love this question. Yeah, my kind of question. Thanks, Joe. First things first. How many platforms do you want them to access? Mind you, we've already diffused the issue that we are dealing with minors. So they are under our control. It's not the other way around, right? You are only opening up because this is their world and they need to develop in it, but they have to do so under your guidance. So the question is, how many platforms do we want to put them on? Because the more platforms you put them on, the more work you would have to do in terms of your monitoring. If you are using tools like Screen Time, which I demonstrated for you, Truecaller, Kaspersky Safe Kits, and the rest, then from a technology standpoint, what will happen is you'll be able to generate maybe daily reports or weekly reports. And I don't know how busy you are, but I can get so busy that even my weekly reports, I will not be able to go through them. So we've gotten to a stage where a bit of child trust is also there, because some of them have been bent, on the fire already. So they know that, okay, things that daddy used to say are actually real and I'm not interested. So that's maybe one of the advantages that I would have. But for parents that do not, I would want you to use the terminologies that I've sold to you. Reduce the attack surface, reduce the risk surface, which includes how many platforms you want them to be on. If it's just WhatsApp they are using for now, then you know how many contacts are in their WhatsApp. At least you can easily check their call logs, their WhatsApp call logs. Some of the kids are even deleting those call logs, but it's not a big deal. You still keep checking. It is when you take your eye off the ball that the risk actually materializes more. But once you have your eye on the ball, if something creeps up, you would easily pick it up earlier than when you are not paying attention to it at all. So the routines may vary. There is no one size fits all, but I want you to use the principle of reducing the attack surface. How much time do you have? How many platforms can they access? And how are you going to control them? Is it through technology or manual use? All these things will determine what the routines should be like. But I love the questions and I agree with you absolutely, Joe.
Can I come in there?
Please do.
Okay. So in terms of that too, you made mention of the fact that there's a need for us to build digital trust with these children. And I want to say that from the behavioral point of view, it will be important for us to be the ones to set the right examples for them, because clearly my interaction with children indicated that sometimes mommy says I cannot access the platform, but mommy is always on Instagram looking for styles and watching short videos on TikTok. Meanwhile, when I need a device for my homework, she doesn't give me. She will say she's busy, or I have to go and do my homework. I don't need to. So as much as possible, these young people are imitating us and watching us do a lot of things. So for us to build the digital trust in them, they need to see us doing the things we are talking about. If for nothing at all, just for them. So that when they are out, it's just like a watershed system at home. So when it's time for the devices to be put away, everybody puts the device away, and then we go on like that. So as much as possible, we need to be setting the right examples, because children of these days are just observing. They observe and then they imitate and they mimic those behaviors when the opportunity presents itself to them.
Absolutely. Thank you. Another scenario.
Please, can you see the scenario?
Yeah.
Is it different?
Okay. So a 12-year-old engages with someone they believe to be a peer online, but actually an adult posing as a friend. The adult starts manipulating the child for personal gain. Okay.
What should a child do under this circumstance?
So a child that has been empowered will first of all move to disclosure, right? So it's going to have open communication. Why did I give the caveat of empowered? Please, if you have not empowered the child, fear. They are dealing with two sides of fear. Fear from the perpetrator and fear of the fact that they have done something that they know when they come and open up to you, they are going to be scolded. They might
lose access.
Exactly. So, but when you build the empowerment, if you take the empowerment route, all you would have done is you would have opened them up to the platform of choice. You would have given them certain privileges under the parental control, whether manually or using technology. And therefore, when something goes wrong, because they are empowered, it becomes easier for them to say, mommy, daddy, auntie, I'm having this issue and I want you to take a look at it. And then you can go into monitoring mode, right? You can actually start engaging that potential perpetrator yourself, without them knowing that it's the child is no more engaging you. And that is where you get very good content for law enforcement and the rest, because you can deal with the trauma of the request of the things that is being said, because your child will know more between the space when you are trying to build the evidence to when maybe you do a formal reporting on the issue. The child will not be the one consuming that content, right? It will be you, the adult, so you know how to build the case on it. I recently saw a video, I think it's a reel that I saw on my Facebook, where a lady was furious against this youngster, probably maybe 25, 26-year-old gentleman. And it turned out that he's been trying to date the lady's 11-year-old daughter. And she got the time that she realized it, she took over the WhatsApp of the child, and was the one speaking to the guy who was asking for all sorts of things, all sorts of terrible things that is asking of an 11-year-old. And so the woman confronted him with the evidence of the content, and said that I'm going to have you arrested. Yeah, it's something similar is what the picture I'm trying to paint. You might not even need to get up and go. I'm going to go and confront them and take a video of them. No, you can actually follow the law enforcement route. There are organizations. Maybe you come to Child Online Africa if you don't know how to approach maybe the cybersecurity authorities or the police cybercrime unit. You can come to Child Online Africa, and then maybe they give you guidelines on to how maybe you prepare your petition, who to call, how to approach it, and then gradually get this predator arrested. I know there are challenges where the predators don't really live within their jurisdictions. Yeah, but once you make the report, you can move on to the next step where you put in the filtering. You block the numbers, you make the report, you generate the evidence out. So maybe screenshots, or maybe you email the content of the chat to yourself so that you can give it to law enforcement. If the investigation has to be done, they know what content is in the pictures that were sent. You can save all those things, and then you block the contact. You try to build a bit more resilient wall around your child in terms of this experience by going back to empower the child again, so very good job, Amma, for bringing this issue up. That's exactly what I was talking to you about. This is what cyber stalking is. This is what the dangers are. The next time you see somebody like this, block the person, use this feature, or come back to mommy, or come back to daddy. The empowerment is needed more. The digital trust is needed more than anything else. As for the technology tools, I can recommend so many of them as we go on. You can have parental control, you can have content filters. If you have a child that you suspect is playing around pornography, there's one tool that I discovered recently when I came to the States. You install it, you prep it, and that's it. There's no pornography content is going to come on any of his browsers ever, unless that application is removed. Now imagine locking that application with a folder lock, and then using your thumbprint. So it means that you can't remove the application, you can't get it off the system, and the application is protecting the device against pornography content. So these are some of the things you can do from a technology standpoint. But like I said, I would go. Oh, right. I will go for the empowerment and the digital trust. I will do this briefly for the one that requested it. How many scenarios more do I have to deal with?
We have 4.
4
Yeah,
scenarios.
but they are quite related. And in
right.
terms of this, I was going to bring in the 7-day rule, whereby basically for young people below 13. So as a parent or an educator, before you allow them onto a platform, you set yourself 7 days aside for yourself. First day, you look at the general outlook. Second day, you look at the reporting features. How can the child flag an incident?
I'm taking you off. I will do the demo and then we'll come back.
Sure. Well, so whilst you said the demo, I'll just be speaking to it.
Okay. So confirm you can see the purple background screen. That's where my
I can see black. I can't see purple though, but I can see
black. Oh, the mirroring.
We can see.
Maybe I'm colorblind.
No. They know you don't. You were off when the magic was going on. Okay, so back again. I just go to my tools. So you can see that everything that is miscellaneous, I've created a folder called tools. I like to organize my phone. I don't want people to play around it. So here, this tool called triple web filter. This one, the one with the green arrow and yellow arrow. So you get it from your Android Play Store straight away. It will give you a very simple process to go through. You to ask you to copy a web link. That web link is what we call a DNS URL. So it would use that to filter the browsing for you. So here, and that's all there is. I'll demonstrate to you. That's all there is. So that's stop filter. It gives you the process to stop. I have no intention of stopping the filter. Lock filter.
Is there a way you could pick the URL and paste in the chat?
No, without the application.
Because okay.
No, when you install the application, it generates URL for you.
Okay.
Yes. But I wouldn't mind if somebody is trying to go through the process and they have a challenge. They just want to get in touch with me. I can help with that. Okay. So just to demonstrate to you. So now I have it here. Oh shoot. Sorry, I need to get this alarm off or it's going to disturb everybody. Which means I was supposed to be done with this session by now.
Even to your father.
Okay, here. So sorry, people, sorry. So here you have the stop filter, the lock filter. The lock filter will ask you to go for a commercial subscription. Like I said, a lot of the things here, we really don't need them. We just need the basics. But if you're somebody who wants to go on and explore these other features, then that's fine. And then you can also, once you get the premium version, you can also block apps. But you could see that I'm doing this with multiple place. I'm blocking apps with a free app lock already, so I don't know why I should. What I use this for is to make sure that none of the browsers can load any pornographic content, even if you take the phone. So let's do a demonstration. Maybe Desmond is just making this app. So I have a browser in my Google. So I go to Chrome. And yes, everybody else is beyond it. So, I think I even tried a demo before I can. So let's say, let's try something like a general one that was even in the news. So you see, the Pornhub URL is not loading. It is only a Google search that's news items about Pornhub. Now, someone will say, oh, okay, run the site yourself and stop lying. So I go up to the site and I try to get access to it. And this is what it says. The site can't be reached. And this is what's going to happen to every single, I'm putting my credibility on the line. Every single Pornhub site that you know, once you try to run it through the browsers, any of the browsers you install on your app, it's not going to work. This is also a very good way of dealing with content that you cannot control, right? Because you can have a child who maybe is addicted to it. You don't know, especially those in their uppers. So like from the 12 years going, they could have like early porn addiction you don't know about. They are looking at animes, which have been developed into, cartoons developed into pornography. There's so much about this issue we can talk about, which will not make you very comfortable. But this is our reality. The purpose of this phone call is empowerment, right? So this is a way, but you can also deal with it. Some of the sites that are known by others as well, maybe XXX. And this is where when they go and share private pictures of themselves to these groomers and stalkers, or groomers and harassers, or people they consider boyfriends who all of a sudden began to blackmail them. These are some of the portals they go and share. They go and sell the images on. So you have a child who is already listed on a porn site as a porn artist, and they may not even know. So I tried to open this and it says, so at least I've done 2 demonstrations. The most popular ones I know, Pornhub and XXX, are not working. And that is because I have installed the tuple. And let me go back to tuple again. Maybe somebody missed it.
What did you say the name of the app is again?
TRUPEL. It's on your screen now. Tuple web filter. TRUPLE and then web filter. And you can get it on Android straight away. So I will just the last thing and then we go. I think if you go and type Tuple, I have Tuple web filter here. Okay. So the other is installed, but you have this one. That's this one that is coming down, the one that is loading down there. Not the online accountability, the one that I have installed already that's loading down here. That's what you need to get. And you should be fine. Okay. I think there's an update. I've just done that there's an update. So it means you are going to, whoever installs now is going to get like a current version of it. So yes, thank you so much. Let's get back to the pointers. I'm stopping the share of my screen now so that I can take over. Okay. Where were we? Was it on the questions? Oh, scenarios. Yes, sorry.
Yeah,
scenarios.
I'm going to skip 2 of the scenarios and have the last 2 because our time is almost up. The last 2 because they are quite related to what you just spoke about. So I'm moving you to revenge porn, and which is likely for the young adult category. So if anybody is here with that interest, then the person also gets
I agree with
satisfied.
You.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
So that's it. The 19-year-old's ex-partner shares intimate photos without their consent, leading to online harassment and reputation damage. So essentially, this scenario, because young people now, because of the adolescence and every other thing, they tend to be sexting. And so sometimes it becomes sexting gone bad or something. And at the end of the day, they lose control. What can the parents do, or what can the child do in order to salvage the reputation? Should they start, or even if before it starts? Yeah.
Okay, so first things first, please have in mind, especially if you are in Ghana, that revenge porn is a crime under our cybercrime law as of 2020. So if this is happening, your first point of call is to involve the police cybercrime unit. Have a proper report done, a proper petition done. And I'm saying proper because you need to also protect the identity of your child. Well, in this case, we have a 19-year-old, but let's assume it's much younger than that. You would have to be able to mask out the necessary information, use pseudonyms, even though the police will know who they are dealing with. You have to use pseudonyms for your petition just to protect the child from maybe later exposure. Yeah, of course, it's public record, but you need to put in the right measures. Now, having gotten that off the way, this is one of the biggest problems that we would have with this issue, because for the most times it's happening amongst the upper age, and I've categorized them as 13 years and above. That's where the energy is, and you see a lot of them already behaving like adults, and so the awareness, the empowerment, has to, you have to shift that empowerment into a drift where it's more of a collaborative conversation of, the potential harms that are likely to happen in there. First things first, in terms of technology. Now, whereas your ideal situation would be to tell the child to abstain, I'm also here to tell you that practically that is not the solution. Yes, abstinence, drum it, repeat it, say it as many times as you can. Some would pick it, some would not. But a child who by themselves is already taking pictures of themselves, maybe their body development, they like themselves, and they are following the unnecessary hype of body positivity and etc., then they have to learn to use what we call folder locks. On Android, you can get a number of folder lock apps that allows you to maybe lock your directory, like your gallery, so you don't get people to access that information. Also, you've seen the single views that you have on WhatsApp platforms, for instance. So these are things that you have to bring their minds on how to manage their privacy when it comes to some of these content. But like I said, the first point of call is abstinence. But when it's the upper age and they have the device and it's not a shared device, then they also need to know how they can actually, keep safe by, keeping some of these content to themselves. And then I don't know, but from where I come from, we have a trust nobody rule. And I think that also happened based on the experiences of the two big sisters. So the trust nobody rule is you don't know who is on the other side, so you might as well keep to yourself and just have general conversations, because even the things you say nowadays turns out on screenshots and they are being used to malign you, not just the private content like naked pictures or half naked pictures or videos and the like. So I think the use of the privacy tools and the security tools would be very handy, protecting all those valuable jewels, if you like. It's important. And I think this is also something that even we as adults will want to pay attention to. I'd give you a scenario. 4 years ago, I was doing a project and someone introduced a politician to me. Okay. My good politician friend could swear heaven and earth that he never sent these pictures out. His suspicion was that he had given the phone out and, somebody had gone through his gallery and has pushed those pictures to themselves, and now they are using it against him. A few things happened. I had to ask him to involve the police because I don't have investigative powers beyond what I could do online. I think the matter ended well for him, but it might not be the same for you. So it was the first 4 years ago that I introduced folder app locks to. That now that I see that you have a factory where you brew these things, please provide security for yourself, because I mean, I don't know how else to deal with these issues. So that's just one of the examples I got in my line of work about, some of these things could also be done accidentally. What if the child device got, let's move away from this scenario. What if the device got spoiled, or there's a fault, and maybe mommy or daddy took it and gave it to the repairer? Mind you, she would have forgotten, or in the spit of the moment, she needs a device back. She would have forgotten that she has such content on it, which are not protected. And that's why I'm saying that for the upper, I call them the upper minors, the 13 years and above, they should learn to use some of these tools to their advantage. And even for us as adults, we should also learn to bring some of these tools in there, because away from our scenario, we could also have accidental situations or not intended situations, which will still give us the same results. I will back to you. I think that's the
Okay. I've launched the other poll. So the next scenario, what I'm going to do, just so I don't close the screen, will be to copy it and paste in the chat for you. But it has to do with a 20-year-old who has been peer influenced, but at the end of the day, they end up catfishing and stalking. So yeah, just posting that.
Okay.
In the chat for you. So you take it from there. Just so we'll be running the poll at the same time, discussing issues.
Oh, somebody asked for something. Test it on the images and see. Oh, you want me to do search and then go to images and see if the porn content will show? It won't show, but since you have asked, when we are done, I'll take some 5 minutes from our and I'll do it for you to see. It won't show. So long as you are using the tool I've recommended, it won't show. I think that's Daniel Asante. I understand what you mean. When you do the search and you go to videos and images, sometimes it's there. I know that. But the tool that I'm using on my phone to demonstrate to you will not allow the content to show anywhere, not in the general search, not in videos, not in photos. So scenario, a 20-year-old falls victim to an online predator who stalks them by creating multiple fake profiles and manipulating their trust. Okay, let me admit that when multiple profiles are created, we've already entered into a very difficult terrain. Not every system, especially in Ghana, we don't have a lot of service providers, and not even the police or the cybercrime authority currently is equipped to do what we call takedowns, right? Yeah. Now, takedowns are essentially services that allow some of these fake profiles to be removed. The second problem you are going to have is that the social media service providers or the platform service providers themselves will need you to prove your identity and why they should remove those other platforms. So if you have not put together enough evidence to show that those platforms are carrying your images, 1, 2, they are actually being used to malign other people, which is undermining your trust, then you are going to have problem proving to this platform service provider that yes, these are accounts that are being used against my person, and therefore you should take them down. And that's where the real challenge is when it comes to, if we get into the space where the platforms have been created already. So one of the professional advice I give is, as much as we can, let's not get there, especially with our children. I've seen politicians struggling to get the, multiple accounts that have been created of them to getting them to take down. It's a process that can be done, but it's quite a tedious process, even where the systems are matured. It's quite a tedious process to go through. So that's the first recommendation, take down, right? Actually,
but then there's currently a provision in partnership with MTN.
Okay.
So you can request for that to be done. And I think the Cybersecurity Authority also has a NECMEC partnership which can help with the takedown now.
Awesome.
But it's a cumbersome process. It's not as direct.
I know,
as
but I'm relieved to know that there are options in Ghana at least there are options in Ghana to work with.
Ghana and a couple of African
other countries. Okay, good.
Kenya.
All right, so that's a huge thumbs up. It is a cumbersome process, but to know that it can be done for you is actually a very good relief. And I would encourage anybody who has any challenge to take advantage of some of these platforms. But my first recommendation was actually going to be, when it comes to fake profiles, snapshots all these fake profiles and do your own disclaimer of the fake profiles. That's the first thing you do, especially with the age that I'm looking at. I'm dealing with an adult, right? So go back to your profile that you know works, the one that people trust you on, and make a huge disclaimer about all the profiles that are being used to malign you, and name and shame, and get people also alerted not to jump onto those platforms. Of course, then you can roll back after you've reported and requested for takedowns. You can also roll back to privacy settings and security tools, and also make use of getting those people off your back by either blocking them or taking them off your network or things like that. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sending you a last scenario.
Okay.
For a 13-year-old, because I'm looking at a situation of harassment, and clearly it's more like what a young person who has just gotten the green card to explore or to go online would venture into. So what can a child, an empowered child or an equipped child do under a situation like this?
Good. So you've given a scenario that actually brings COA's kind of work into perspective. I'm looking for a day where advocacy would empower schools, okay, to be able to have these sort of redress offices for digital harassment. This thing has happened to so many people, including those close to me and those that I know from far, where it's even difficult. I remember a teacher one day saying that the students don't even come to confide in them when such things happen. And it happens within the classroom. These are not strangers. I like this scenario because I've seen it also played out. These are not strangers. These are people within the same, and I would even elevate the harassment we have here into proper cyberbullying, proper cyberbullying where they gang up, they create caricatures of their mates and put them on the social media platform. They tag their mates with all sorts of names and, pass on derogatory statements about them. In a nutshell, they would make your word feel less a person, and it is not technology that creates this problem. This has to do with people's upbringing. Beings. Yes, it has to do with people's upbringing and how well they are not cultured, some of them, and some of them too who are coming from very good homes but are picking up these sort of attitudes from the people that they are aligned and acquainted with. So we will need those sort of offices or those sort of call it redress homes in the schools. It can be a teacher who has been appointed to deal with matters like that, so that parents can go in there and get some of these things done. Because like I said, if you nip the behavioral issue, those platforms that they are on would be clean. It would at least be clean a bit, because they assume those platforms are not for the school. So yeah, they are on their own and they can do any and everything. I think the second one would be that your child needs to get off that platform. There's always risk to reward ratio. To stay there and be emotionally distressed and abused, psychologically offended, and to leave. What value are we getting from these platforms? So we can leave the platform. The perpetrators can also be put in the block list. Look, the same way you would not want your child to go into a physical environment where she could be harmed. That's the same measures you are taking on the digital platform, where you are putting in the guardrails to make sure that your child is not harmed digitally. There's been worst case scenarios where people have changed schools, but I don't think you need to get there. If there's a good reason to, then that's fine, because like I told you, withdrawal is important. And withdrawal would also include changing the environment where the child is, where these things happen. But because we are dealing with the digital front, one key thing to do is to get out of that space and also name and shame people who have taken up that attitude and have become potential perpetrators, as the scenario paints it. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if there's a question there. There are a lot of things to unpack, but unfortunately, we've run out of time. I don't want to keep us on the platform for too long, especially those of us who have been visited by special guests. So we are in the dark at the moment. So please let us know if you have a question. Other than that, maybe we would make the recordings available once Zoom sends it over. So we'll share that with you. And then we hope that you found the session useful. And the subsequent sessions, November is actually our month. We call it our Nice Net November month. So we have a number of things that we'll be doing in November, which we didn't do in October, simply because there are a number of activities already in October. So please be on the lookout. Call a friend to call a friend, or notify a friend when the need arises, and then we together we'll be working in safeguarding the future of children and young people in Ghana and across Africa. So if there isn't any question, I will, Desmond, maybe you have the last word, and then we sign off.
All right. Okay. So I think the whole conversation about digital empowerment is important. For the many things that we have discussed, same reasons, I will not reiterate them. But I would also want you to be more of, your child's keeper. Like, it's not okay for, especially because I'm speaking because of what I saw in the statistics. It's not okay to assume that they will be fine. They will not. They will not. They are not going to be fine. Look, across all different age groups, they will be faced with so much challenges, some that could even break their back. And that is the point where, if you have empowered them well, if they know that they can come back to you, then you get to fix the issue earlier than when it goes out of hand. We might not all be lucky, right? And that is why we need to pay attention. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you so much for your time and your data.
Don't worry, data is not a problem where I am.
No, I'm not. That is not to you. That's
to
right. Our audience. Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, we're doing a piece on Halloween. Even though it's tomorrow, what are the young people looking out there? And those of us who are religious, would we want to put some checks in there just so they don't get overwhelmed with all sort of stuff? Tomorrow morning, we'll put out our position on that, which could serve a good purpose. So please expect that from us. Just some tips on what you could do whilst they chance upon those contents, which you feel might be so much of an affront to your belief system in one way or the other. Yes. So once again, thank you so much for your time, and we hope our next, we shall see you on our next webinar, if possible. Yes.
All right. Bye.
All right.
Oh, how do we get what he said? Will you send it to us by email?